That's me. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to have a public speaking triathlon. I think you're all a bit, we need a bit warming up by the look of it. So there's going to be a bit of physical stuff, you're going to be moving your limbs, there's going to be a bit of brain work and a bit of emotional stuff to speak up in front of everyone. Let's start with Latin and Greek. You do teach that here, don't you? Excellent. Dead languages. What have they got to do with us in this world of particle physics and AI and genetic editing? Well, pretty much everything, actually, because we can't count anything without them, it turns out. We're going to have a little game now to keep your arms going in a classical game of Latin versus Greek. Okay, this is how it works. Here are two columns. On this side, a classic Doric column. On the other side, the fancier Ionian column, favoured by the Greeks. Started for 10 times is deca. Deca as in decathlon, decade, but not ant and dec. If you think it's Latin, arms over this way. If you think it's Greek, arms over that way. You all ready? Okay, go. Well, first blood to Latin. Next up, 100. That's cent, as in centipede, centigrade, dollars and cents, but not sense of humour. This way for Latin, that way for Greek. Okay, Latin again. Now let's ramp it up a bit to 1,000. Milli, as in millipede, but not militant. Kilo, as in kilogram, but not killer whale. This way for Latin, that way for Greek. Well done, you're all correct. Milli is Latin, kilo is Greek. No idea why we need both of them. Now, 1 million. Mega, as in megaton, megabyte, but not Meghan Markle. This way for Latin, that way for Greek. Okay, Greek's catching up. Okay, megas is Greek for great, isn't it? Something like that. All right, 1 billion now. We're going to ramp it up. Giga, as in gigaton, gigabyte, but not Lady Giga. This way for Latin, that way for Greek. Whoa! Score draw. Giga means giant in Greek. So, there you go. Two dead languages still very much alive whenever we count pretty much anything. Two questions. Why do we use Latin for small numbers and Greek for big numbers? No idea. Ask your staff. Second one, can you imagine a gigaton? Do you know how big a gigaton is? I can help you with this one. Here is the wide blue ocean. Now, I want you to imagine a US Navy Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, fully armed, fully loaded, fully crewed. Okay, you got that in your head? Does it look something like that? Okay? Now, I want you to imagine 10 of them. Okay, the US Navy has 11. 10 of them on the sea. Got that? That's what it looks like. Now, can you imagine 100 of them? That's what 100 looks like. Starting to look a bit silly, isn't it? Now imagine 1,000 of them. What you're looking at is 10% of a gigaton. Aircraft carriers about 100,000 tons, 10,000 of them make up a gigaton. Okay, now we don't just use Latin and Greek, these dead languages, to count things. Hands up if you've heard the word refrigerant. A few hands here. It comes from the Latin refrigerare, which means to make cool, which is what Madame Sparks has asked me to do with languages today, to make them cool. Hands up if you've heard this word, management. Very good. This comes to us from the French ménagement and the Italian managgiare, both of which come from the Latin word manus, meaning hand, as does the word manipulate, which is what I'm doing to you all right now, but you don't know it. But if I tell you I'm manipulating you, can I really be manipulating you? Bit of philosophy in there too. Okay, now hands up if you've ever seen or heard these words next to each other. Not a single hand. Okay. Now, here are the 12 languages that Madame Sparks told me are spoken in this school, apart from English. I don't like the word foreign language, because it all depends where you're from, doesn't it? Can you recognize the languages from the flags? Okay. Listen carefully. Si puedes entender lo que estoy diciendo, por favor, ponte de pie ahora. Gracias. Por favor, quédate de pie. Muchas gracias. Wenn Sie verstehen können, was ich sage, stehen Sie bitte auf. Vielen Dank. Bitte bleiben Sie stehen. Si vous pouvez comprendre ce que je dis, veuillez vous lever. Merci. Merci de rester debout. Se puoi capire quello che sto dicendo, per favore alzati. Grazie. Per favore resta in piedi. Indeni anlalya biliyorsaran lütfen ayağa kalk. Teşekkürler. Lütfen ayağa kalkın. 如果你能明白我在说什么，请站起来。谢谢。请保持站立。如果你們明白我在說什麼，請站起來。唔該，請保持站立。Если вы понимаете, о чем я говорю, пожалуйста, встаньте. Спасибо. Важко ви розумієте, що я кажу, будь ласка, встаньте. Спасибо, будь ласка, встаньте. 私の言ってることが理解できたら立ってください。今。ありがとう。立ちっぱなしでお願いします。ถ้าคุณเข้าใจที่ฉันพูดพออยู่คุณกับคุณครูหน้าหรือคุณ Если również co mówię, proszę wstań. Dziękuję. Proszę wstań. Okay, now you may have guessed by now that everyone standing up now speaks one of these 12 languages. I just asked them to stand up in Spanish, German, French, Italian, Turkish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Russian, Ukrainian, Japanese, Thai, and Polish. Now, everyone sitting down now, please get everyone standing up. A big round of applause for your language heroes. Okay, thank you very much. Now, you might find it unbelievable that I just happen to be fluent in all 12 languages just happen to be spoken in this school. And you'd be quite right, it is unbelievable because I can't. But I am fluent in a few of them, I can get by in some others, and the rest, well, this is the important point. I'm not afraid to have a go and risk embarrassing myself by butchering it in front of 1,000 strangers. Now, if nothing else, this is what I want you to take away from this morning. Have a go. What do you have to lose? So in my experience, trying to speak someone else's language can only lead to good things. It breaks the ice. It warms people up. It opens doors. So next time you meet someone from somewhere else, at school, in a shop, at a restaurant, fixing something at home, why not ask them how to say hello in their language and see what happens? I can guarantee you'll both feel better for it. Now, here's my challenge. Next time you see that person again, hopefully with friends and family around, try and remember that word, greet them warmly with a smile and with confidence in their own language. And if you do this, two things will happen. First, you'll amaze your friends and family by cheerily greeting the shop assistant, waitress or plumber in Swahili, Portuguese or Hungarian, which they didn't know you spoke. Secondly, you'll get a warm, delighted, friendly reaction from that person who will now treat you differently from everyone else who didn't make the effort. Okay, brain section of the mini triathlon, quiz time. First, the warm-up question. Who here knows the English word for someone who speaks many languages? Just shout it out. Clever Dick? No? Another one? Multilingual. Multilingual. That means many tongues in Latin. Another one? Polyglot. Very good. That means many languages in Greek. It's million kilo all over again. I don't know why we need both, but there you go. This is part of the glory of English, our mongrel mashup, our masala of many different languages. It's what makes English unique. Now for the quiz proper. Okay. What do you call someone who can speak 3 languages? There's a word, one word that means exactly 3 languages. Very good, trilingual. Now, what do you call someone who can speak only 2 languages? Bilingual, very good. What do you call someone who can speak only 1 language? Right. Now, having English as your native language is both a blessing and a curse. Here are my top 3 blessings, see if you agree with them. 1, you can speak English almost anywhere and be understood. Now, I'm guessing most of you have travelled overseas and experienced this. English is the world's first second language. Here's another one, teaching jobs. Now, some of you may be thinking about a gap year now and teaching English. I highly recommend it. I've taught English to non-native speakers many times in my life, both here and overseas. It's a great way to get to know a place and people and to understand English. Because apart from pronunciation, most native English speakers are really pretty rubbish at teaching it. That's because we're not taught English grammar. English is particularly hard to explain because it's such a mishmash of a language. We actually have loads of rules, we just don't know them. So if you're a foreigner, you're actually much better off learning English from a Slovenian who can explain it properly. But don't worry, being a native speaker plus a 3-week TEFL course will still help you get a job. Third blessing is it's the international language. If you end up, whatever you end up doing, if in international business, academia, aid, politics, being a native English speaker will give you a huge natural advantage. For the Olympics, the UN, Hollywood, internal Coca-Cola Corporation brainstorms, nearly all international meetings are conducted in English. They're quite obvious. Now, what about the curses? These may be less obvious than the blessing, but they do exist, and I think they're all wrong. But see if you agree with my top 3 downsides to speaking English as your native language. Hands up who thinks learning languages is hard. Okay, now keep your hands up if you think all those people who stood up a few minutes ago are way, way, way smarter than all of you. Now, if you don't think they're complete geniuses born with a natural ability you can never hope to match, you just proved it can't be all that hard. Okay, hands up if you think you're bad at languages. Yeah. Okay, now keep your hands up if you have been able to understand what I have been saying for the past few minutes. Well, you seem to have got the hang of English, most of you, so you can't actually be that bad at languages, can you? Okay. Who thinks languages are no fun? Okay. Now, keep your hands up if you're having a really miserable time now. You can put your hands down now. So, Madame Sparks has invited me here today to help you overcome the 3 curses of having English as your native language. I've got longer sessions with a couple of year groups this morning, but while you're all here, I have a final quiz which involves maths, physics, politics, and philosophy. Its connection to languages is that it's where a lifetime of language learning has led me, and were it not for the doors that languages have opened for me in my life, I wouldn't be doing whatever it is that I am doing. Okay. Now, quickly, mentally, think of the 5 things, the top 5 things we can do to reduce greenhouse gases. Mentally list them right now. Now, you hear about it all the time in the news, you probably get taught it at school, sometimes you may even talk about it yourselves. Okay? Now, you've got those 5 things in your head, and I want you to examine them and ask how many of them you can do yourself directly by changing your individual behavior. Let's call that IB, individual behavior. And this is opposed to government regulation or enforcement, we'll call that GR. So you should now have a mental list of 5 things and a number between 0 and 5 representing how many of those things you can influence yourself. You want the answers? Number 1, reduce food waste. This could save 88 gigatons of CO2 equivalent by the year 2100. Do you remember how big a gigaton is? And that was of metal. This is of gas. Anyone get that, by the way? Number 2, plant-rich diets. Eating less meat, 78 gigatons. Now, I've given that a tiny tick because you can, of course, do that yourself. But, of course, to get it to that scale of 78 gigatons, you need government taxes, subsidies, or other forms to make that big a difference that quick. Anyone have this one? Education. The number 3 most important thing that we can do to reduce carbon. Why would that be? Fewer people, less carbon consumption. We know that education means fewer babies. More education, fewer babies. Human population is now 7.5 billion. It's due to peak at 2100 at 10 billion. And number 5 is tropical forest regeneration. That's 54 gigatons. Thank you for being so attentive and so polite. But how attentive have you been and how polite have you been? Yeah, but that's because you already know it. Refrigerant management is the 4th most effective thing our species can do to reduce greenhouse gases. Now, you now all know something that I guess your families and friends don't know, and I know that hardly any of the world's most active climate activists know. I know that because I spent 2 weeks at COP26 in Glasgow last year asking them for their top 5s. Not one of them mentioned refrigerant management. Now, I'll be around for lunch. There'll be a prize for anyone who can come up to me and explain what refrigerant management is and why it saves so much carbon. There's a bonus if you can do it in a language other than English. And there's a really huge bonus if you can explain to me why no one appears to have heard of the fourth most effective thing we can do to reduce carbon, and one which relies 100% on government regulation. Thank you.